April 18, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on 2000 tick chart on the Thinkorswim platform. You can go down to the descriptions below to see where I thought I saw setups as well as where I took some trades. There actually wasn't that many setups or trades that I took today. This is what the charts looked like after I drew it up. I took only 2 trades today, and I only saw maybe two other setups. The total range from the high and low was 41.64 to 41.98, so that's about 34 points of range. But then if you look at what happened yesterday, it was about the same thing. It was about 32, 34 points of range. So prices look like they just kind of stayed in this gigantic trading range, and it just had maybe one swing down, then it just consolidated into just several trading ranges. So I saw a bunch of second entries, but not very many good high probability setups. So I've been trying to be more cautious so as not to get suckered into taking bad trades, which has been difficult because I'm still learning this. So I'm going to go through the 4 setups and the 2 trades that I took, and it should be pretty quick. In the pre-market, prices just kind of rallied. It made a 26 point move from down here all the way up, and I established this as the top of the pre-market trading range, even though it's slightly higher. And I thought, if it did come back to this top of this trading range, I'd worry about that later. But until then, I just kind of like this as the top. And when markets open, I did see the first setup, but it happened on the first minute, which I don't really like taking right when things open, because it has a tendency to kind of be very volatile, because in the pre-market, there's probably a lot of orders set up. Some people don't trade the pre-market, and so they'll have their orders set up to take an entry either high or low or close out positions right when the market opens. So this first candle, this first minute can be, probably in the next, several minutes could be kind of choppy. But I did see a new high here, first entry long, prices came down, makes a second entry long in this candle, and then it makes a failure here. So this isn't the best signal bar for this failure, but I did notice it didn't break the EMA. So it's just something I saw. I marked it, and I, just left it alone though. Prices continue moving down. It goes in this first trading range here, and then it breaks out. And then here, I'm thinking it might make it back to the top, either this top of the pre-market or this one that I drew. It doesn't really set up. I mean, as I said, I saw a lot of second entries today, but they're not really good setups. Like you could say there's a new low first entry short, second entry short, but what would you have here? This is definitely not a second entry short that you want to take. It's a bad signal bar. This isn't even a failure at this point, so it's just kind of a lot of confusion. Overall, the market itself today was pretty choppy, but it didn't offer very many safe trades. Prices continue dropping. We'll just pull this in. And now I'm wondering if it's going to touch the bottom of this trading range, which is formed by the pre-market, or maybe even slightly higher up here, where you have a little bit more confirmation. Prices chopped left and right, and right now the EMA is kind of holding prices down, but it's getting pushed. Prices are pushing through it, so it's not really strong resistance. Then it comes down, and right here it touches the bottom. So I'm wondering if it's going to make a move all the way back to the top. I'm looking for potentially a fail breakout, but I'm not going to try to take any trades on it just because this price action is kind of slow. On top of that, it has kind of a bearish bias. So prices continue moving down. I don't see an opportunity to take any kind of entry or even a fail breakout. It comes back up. So I'm thinking, okay, this isn't drawn yet. This trading range isn't drawn yet, so just ignore it. It does come up. I do see a new low here. First entry short. There's potentially a second entry short right off of this candle, but this isn't a very good signal bar. Plus this counter trend. Plus, at this time, I was thinking it might break back into this trading range. But this trading range really isn't developed to give me a lot of confidence it's a solid trading range, because you really only have one touch, maybe 2 touch, but the second touch, it never did anything. It never went back up. Plus the top side, it really only had maybe 1 touch. And if you drew it where I drew it, maybe 1 touch and it had a fail breakout. So this trading range, I don't give too much trust in. So even if it's a fail breakup that I'm looking for, I'm just looking for it, but I'm not necessarily going to look to take a trade unless the setup looks really good with extra key entry points. Prices continue moving up. They're chopping around, and here then I do draw this Actually, this had this bottom channel a little bit higher, about closer to up here. Then later I dragged it down. And I do connect these two lines, and I'm looking for a third confirmation. Prices continue chopping. I don't see anything that I like. I do notice that there's like a triple test here. So it's not a trading range, but it is a resistance line that I drew here. And in hindsight, when I watched this form, you know, I thought there might have been a trade, but I kept looking back if there was any kind of good setups, even all the way back here. And I noticed, okay, maybe there's a new short, new low, first entry short, second entry short, but this isn't a very good entry of anything. And then, if you looked at the bigger visual, first leg up, pull back, maybe a second leg up, but then again, there's no real good setup here, except if you're banking on this triple test and saying this is a semi-decent signal bar and you can maybe flash back down. But I wouldn't have taken it, and I didn't. I just didn't like the looks and feel in real time. Price continued chopping left and right. It's confirming the bottom of this trading range now because it used to be up here, and then I saw, it poke through a few more times, so I dragged it down. And then I do see a second entry short fail breakout. So, this is confirmed maybe 3 times, like a triple test here. So I'm pretty confident that this is the bottom of the trading range. And then it kind of confirmed at the time 3 touches here. So I thought, okay, this is probably the trading range that I'm working with. And I saw a new low here, first entry short coming up right here. This actually makes the first short. Then it's looking like it's setting up for second entry short right here. So this is a pretty decent signal bar. In order for me to have taken this and as a failed breakout, I would have to trust that, this third touch really is the top of this trading range as opposed to just a support down here and it might flag back up or fly back up. But in hindsight, I looked at it and I thought, oh, this is probably a possible trade if I recognize it a little bit better, faster in real time, because it made a double top here and kind of double top here. And this one, yes, it did poke over, but you could count it as 1, 2, 3 touches. So prices might continue moving back down. On top of that, it was with trend, because prices are kind of coming down, grinding down, and it got stuck down here. So this would have been enough if I saw this and recognized it in time for at least a quick scalp of 1 point to come all the way down to at least maybe this bottom of this larger trading range formed by the pre-market. But I saw it, I didn't recognize all that in time, in real time. And then this formed, and certainly I wasn't going to take it here because this candle is already too big and it would have already made my trade. And then it went all the way down to down here. So I continue watching, not doing anything. There's another failed breakout down here. So moving back into the trading range. And I do kind of see what I think is a second entry short. So I see this new low, first entry short, comes up and it makes the second entry short. But I also saw it as a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. So this one's completing the second entry long. This one, the second entry long is still in play, but I'm potentially going to have a failure of this second entry long. And then if I see the next candle as a second entry short form, then I would think it's going to go back down. So I'll actually show you the trade that I took because there aren't very many trades today. I took it right here, 41.69, which is right about here. Let's see, right at this candle here, and it closed below the EMA, and I thought, this is worth a try. And plus, I'm kind of at the midline of this trading range, so I'm thinking there's probably a rejection. It might come back down because it made 2 pushes up, 1 push up, pulls back, a second push up. So maybe it's going to continue this big leg, 1 push down, pulls up, and it makes a potential second push down. So it just gave me a little more, I guess, fuel to the understanding that potentially it's going to keep moving down. So I take the trade, and I was able to get out. Oops. So that worked out pretty well. But that was only one trade, and it was like far and few between today. And you could say there's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but this is a terrible signal bar. There's no real safe setup there, at least I could find. So I just left it alone. Prices continue moving up. It goes into this channel, which I drew. It breaks out and it makes a new high. So I'm thinking maybe it's going to come back down, but it's a little confusing right now because I don't know if this larger channel is actually in play. Maybe it's going to hit the midline. So I just sit and watch. It continues chopping. It looks like the EMA was holding, but then it breaks down and through. And right now, all these little candles, their entire movement is contained within roughly 2 to 3 points, and it's been choppy. So even though it's 2 to 3 points, if you're going for 1 point, you're kind of asking for a lot. So today I just said, I'm not going to try to even attempt to get 2 points today because I'd have to be very, very accurate and right. I'm just going to go for the 1 point, which will probably be, more realistic in the trading today. And so that's all I did today was go after pretty much just 1 point on my two trades. Prices continue moving down. It chops. It's moving sideways. I see a potential first, measured move. I drew a bunch of measured moves throughout, but I deleted them just because it's getting messy. But the ones that actually looked like they were clean, I left on my chart. And this one was pretty clean. So I moved once up, pulls back second up, and I thought this is a potential bottom of the trading range. And I actually had this slightly lower cutting through, and I treated this as an overshoot. But I didn't take a trade off of this because technically, if you had it where my cursor is right here, you could treat it as an overshoot. So where this gray line is, you could say it's a new low, first entry short, second entry short, but this isn't a very good signal bar. And I would want to look for a lower high. And on Thinkorswim, I didn't see a lower high, so except to when you get to right here, but it's already moved so far away that I didn't really like it. Later, I did drag it up from, where this gray line is all the way up to here. So this is where I do see my second trade. I saw this as a new high, first entry long, and a potential second entry long. Now, the second entry long, I didn't like the looks of this signal bar. It did, form kind of weak, but then this follow-up bar, the trigger bar, closed pretty low. And I thought, well, I like how that's showing me some weakness. So I decided to take the trade because originally my top of my trading range was here. So I thought I was kind of near the high and it rejected down. So this is more closer to the midline. And I decided to take the trade anyways. It's kind of a risk, but I thought there's enough room to make it back down to here. So I certainly wanted to get down before here. But as I said today, I was only just going after 1 point because prices were just really slow. I was able to get out my 1 point or 6 ticks, and then prices, immediately shot back up, which I'm pretty happy I quickly got out of there. Then it chopped around. When it came up and touched the second time, that's where I dragged from down here to up there. And so that I thought, okay, I'm working in this larger trading range. I had the midline right here. I was just watching. I mean, I didn't see any good clean setups. You could say there's a new low, first entry short, second entry short, potentially another, touch up here. But at the time, my trend line wasn't up here. Trading range wasn't up here. So it was hard for me to, take this as a short, but it could have been a trade. But I just wasn't mentally prepared to take it. Prices continue moving down. And I didn't see a good entry up here because you could say there's a new high because it's double top. Technically, you could say a first entry long, second entry long, and you take an entry long here. But how would you know to take the failure unless you counted this as a triple test? And then you just kind of on faith wrote it down, which I am not experienced enough to kind of see that and realize it and take it. So it was a nice big move. So this potentially was a trade here. But again, triple test. Other than that, this wasn't even a very good signal bar. So you have to wait for this bar. And potentially there's a trade there. Then prices continue chopping up. And this is getting toward the end of the day, last hour of the day. And this is just a lot of noise now. Then it just kind of goes into the close. So if you look at the trading day today, the volume was actually very similar to yesterday. And the total I guess, range of movement was very similar. It's about 30, 34, 32, points here, and it's about 34 points here. So they're very similar, both very slow days. So I'm actually just, I think looking back, I would have been okay after the fact to know if the day was going to be like this and looking so closely at it. If I didn't take any trades, I would have been okay with that too. But I was able to squeak out and scratch out two very small trades. So in hindsight, I guess that's not too bad. But I didn't really see. I wish I had seen more, or was more, I guess, experience to at least take this entry here, where it's a fail breakout. But I'll just go ahead and label it for myself, just because I like to know that it existed. It's actually, I think, a failed second entry long and a failed breakout. So that was probably a trade there, but I would have to have recognized it in real time. New high, first entry long, second entry long, comes up, breaks. So failed second entry long, failed breakout. So that's how I saw the charts today. Hopefully that was helpful.